Hey guys, this is Arthur from Osmium. I'm a founder of Osmium, one of the best software development companies out there in Eastern Europe. And as always, we have a next episode of our program podcast, which is called SAAS Navigator, where we're speaking with a different and very interesting founders of SaaS applications. And today with us, we have a really interesting guest, Mariano Vazquez from Elem.bio. So basically, I'll give you a really short introduction of what they're doing. So they are creating a virtual human, believe it or not. So I don't want to dive too deep into details, and let's give Mariano a chance to introduce himself.
Okay, so hello everyone. Arthur, thank you very much for the opportunity. Well, I am co-founder and acting CTO, CSO of the company of Elem.bio. The company is a spin-off company of Barcelona Supercomputing Center, which is a research center here in Barcelona, in Spain. I started as researcher in this center in 2005, and we started with a colleague of mine after doing a PhD and some years of postdoc. So in 2005 we started with a colleague of mine to develop a code, a simulation code for complex systems. My background is a physicist. I'm not a doctor, but we started developing this tool and using this tool for biomedical applications. So after 12, 13 years, we receive we started to think about commercializing this software through a company, and then we created Elem. So myself, as I said, I am a physicist. I did my PhD in Barcelona, in the same university, but in a different team of the university. And I am Argentinian I was born in Argentina, although living in Spain for a long time ago.
Okay, and what is basically like for those who don't know, what is this virtual human? What's it used for?
Yes, a virtual human. Some people can think that the virtual human is a digital counterpart of a person, and which relays only in data. So this is partially true, because a virtual human is a combination of data of this patient and a mathematical model, and this combination is used to predict the behavior of this, how this person behaves under a disease and under a therapy, in order to better understand the disease, trying to design new therapies and trying to optimize and personalize a therapy for this patient. The mathematical model can be based can be AI, can be based on equations, which is we said that this is physics based, or can be a combination of both. In our case, our virtual humans are physics based, with an outer layer, let's say of AI to improve the model, and all of this is transformed in a computer program. So this is software. We develop software for these virtual humans. So this is basically what is a virtual human.
Hmm. And as I suppose, we can use this model, mathematical model of a human for predicting the results of certain therapies, and also for medical tests, maybe, or for some medication, right? And many other options.
Yes, absolutely. The virtual human that we develop and commercialize is very focused on the cardiovascular system. Although we are working in other things, and there are virtual humans of other things you can imagine, but we're very focused on cardiovascular, and it has two main flavors, let's say. One, which is to personalize the model for a given patient. So based on the data of the patient, we can personalize the model and study different therapeutic alternatives, let's say, for this patient and his or her disease. And the second use that we give to it is that we have also developed some mathematical tools which allow us to create a population, to create a virtual population which represents a real population, and on this virtual population do the same tests of a therapy. The good point is that a virtual population has all the variability of a real population. So it is very similar to running a clinical trial, but here in silico, in the computer. So you do this for a much smaller fraction of, of, of cost and much smaller fraction of time. So it is very good for speeding up the development and the usage of a given therapy, which can be by drugs or pharmaceutical, let's say, or by medical devices, or a combination of both.
And it's safer for real human because we don't need to put them on drugs.
Absolutely, absolutely. Then you can ask if there is the point to say, I believe it or not. But if you believe in it, or if you have trust and confidence on the idea of what we are doing is not to do as much accurate as possible or precisely to repeat the behavior of a therapy in a person. No, because this is not at all possible. So what we are doing is try to know the error bounds of what we are doing in order to make it in a way that it is controlled. And if you believe in the and we can show, we have proof, we have papers, we have customers, so we have many ways of proving that what we are doing is good within certain error bounds. It is exactly as you said. It is much safer, and well, it's safe because you are not risking any life. You are not risking any, um, not even by a minimum degree. You are not risking anything for applying this therapy in a real person.
Sweet, sweet. All right, and all the mice, laboratory mice are alive as well.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
let's go to the next block of what actually has inspired you to start the company. Like you worked for many years in the industry as a physicist, so it's really interesting. What inspired you to make it commercial?
Well, we my main motivation for doing what we've been doing for so many years was the kind of the simplest motivation and more direct, is because I like a lot to program and I like a lot to develop simulation models in which I can mimic nature and study nature in a very efficient way and in a very with a lot of fun, let's say. Um, when I started to work in biomedical applications because or to apply our tools to biomedical, because the first motivation is because it is a very challenging field. The human bodies and biology is very complex. So it's really challenging for the kind of tools that we develop. It's very nice to see them applied in this field. And and then there is the motivation of the purpose of what you do, no? So it's like you have a higher purpose that says what I'm doing can be useful for making people's life better and to cure diseases and to help to relieve the pain in people that are suffering. And after all, we all are patients. We and our families. So it's very good to see that. I mean, publishing paper for a scientist, publishing papers is very nice. and it's necessary because it's the way in which you are evaluated. That's very nice. But for me, it's nicer to that the tools that you develop by publishing these papers can go as fast as possible to patients, not just a nice paper with nice pictures, but really goes to heal patients. So that's a motivation that came later after the others, but it is very, very strong. Now is very, very strong.
Okay, and small comment from my side, like when you are doing any type of software, any business at all, like it's really important, as Mariano mentioned, to have some purpose of it, to have problem solving. Like you have to have a problem that you are solving with your product. That's one of the most important things that you can do in SaaS industry, in any business industry. Okay, let's go to the next question. So, what were the biggest challenges that you faced in the early years?
Um, when when I was a purely a researcher at the center, it was just the difficulty of developing the code and validating the code and see that what we are doing is okay. When we started to run the company, you start to see other difficulties that were not below. First of all, that your salary depends basically on you and what you're doing in the company, um, and then that the salary of other people are depending on the company. At the beginning, you are alone, and maybe you and a friend. But as the company gets going, there are more salaries of people depending on that, and depending. Okay, it's a team, but in any case, it depends on you. Um, the most challenging thing is that these kind of tools are the adoption is always slower than what you would like to be. So a challenge is really to make that these tools can be used by massively by doctors, by pharmaceutical companies, by medical device companies, by regulatory organizations, by CROs. So a challenge is then there are many subtleties around it, right? But the main challenge is adoption. Is also to make the doctors confident in the usage, to that the patients accept to use these tools for diagnostic or for designing a proper therapy for them. So this adoption is the difficult thing.
Mm. And it looks like you have started with kind of a narrow approach, something more specialized for big companies or something like that. But it also looks like you want to make the adoption easier. So, are you planning to go in that way, or already started to doing that?
Yes, that's a very interesting point because, as you said, in fact, we started with medical devices, targeting to medical devices companies. Then we discovered that this can be very useful for pharmaceutical companies. And now pharmaceutical companies are by far our most important kind of customer. Then you started to, well, at the very beginning, you always think in the patient. Then you think in the doctor. But then you see that the business is in the companies. So doing B2B, and you start working with companies. Once you start having, but you never lose the final aim, which is the patient, and the vectors to the same, which are the doctors. And so after a while working with companies, it is like you look back and you think that you start opening the game, let's say, for doctors and working with doctors in order to make them beta testers of what you do, And and finally, what we think is that at some point we can become sort of the Spotify of health, in the sense that we can create a, if I can create a virtual human of you, then what I can do is directly sell by a small amount of money, sell directly you your virtual human, which I create with your data. I can create a virtual human and then give it back to you, so you can use it for with together with doctors and with companies in order to for you to have a better health. So it is like first we narrow and then we started to think about opening. But at this moment, we are a B2B company.
Mm. So your future looks like B2B and B2C, both of them, right? Okay, and
First, B2B, at this moment, B2B. And once we have, we open, let's say, the door, then to try to move to also to B2C.
mm-hmm. Okay, and I think it'll be very popular with the tendency of the people to, for self-healing and not trust in doctors. They will gladly have something like virtual human. If doctor subscribes some kind of medicine, they will test on virtual human first in the future.
Yes, yes, absolutely. It's kind of how we envisage where we are going to kind of empower the patient.
Okay. All right. All right. Yeah. So, i- as like you had these challenges that you mentioned, and what was the point when you realized that this can actually work as a business, not just as a research, medical research or physicians research, but as a business? When you realized that?
It was was we created the company in 2018, so it was kind of 12 or 13 years. We started to discuss about this kind of 10 years after we've been working as researcher and developing the technology in BSc. And it came, a very strong suggestion came from a company, in fact. Those days we have received a donation from Medtronic, which is a medical device company, and they asked me, and they said, "Look, working with research centers is okay, is fine, but if we want to move these sort of tools closer to the patient and closer to the business, it for us is much better to work with a company. Why don't you create a startup?" So this suggestion was really very strong, because it was like, you can create a company and we will be your customers. So there were kind of our first customers, not for so long, and because at some point the medical device company is a different kind of company than pharmaceutical, so it wasn't. But in any case, we work with them, we had them as customers, and we can have them as customers again uh, any other time. But I have to say that this was kind of a very strong motivation. And then, of course, it is your own judgment. So it was like, we thought that these tools were mature enough to start being commercialized. What this company said was not at all negligible. So it was a very important piece. And yes, and then we started to, then we created the company and we started.
It's really good when you have on the start of the company you have already demand for something that you're even planning to do, not actually
Mm.
like doing as a business. It's really good start for a company, I'd say.
Yes, I think it was this sort of this discussion with them was kind of the kick that we really need, the definite kick when we started.
Sometimes you just need a kick in the ass. Okay,
Yes.
all right. Yeah. So how did you from the point that we discussed at the beginning of the company, how did you grow from the very first steps as a company, not as a, like, I know you've been doing it for a very long time, for years before starting a company, but from the first steps of being a company to where you are today, how did you grow?
Um, well, we started with some bootstrap money from. Well, we started to discuss with potential investors, basically angels. So we talked with them, and one of these angels said, "Okay, we can. I can invest a small amount of money, enough money to make myself out of the center. Now I am part-time researcher at the BSc at the research center, but those days I was full-time. So that was the starting point in which I left as a full-time researcher at the center. And the other person hired by the newly created company was the CEO, which is a friend of mine. So we started being two. And then we just did it in a very natural way as any startup. So doing plans for growing, having starting to have our first customer came kind of maybe 2 years or 1.5 year afterwards. Uh, we got more funding. We have some convertibles. Also, we have the donation from Medtronic. Then we did a crowdfunding round. Then we got what here in Europe we have these EIC accelerators for startups. We got one, and all these we had more customers, and all these just make us grow in a very natural way. Today we are 30, and we are at this moment we are going um, through a fundraising round, and we'll see how it goes. We'll see.
Hmm. So, as I understood, most of the changes and growth in your company uh, actually came from being in the accelerators and getting funded by investors. Is there maybe anything that you've done outside of the investing and funding and stuff like that that also made an impact on your company?
Well, customers. We started to have customer. We provide two different kind of services. On one hand, a product, because our tool is deployed in the cloud and can be accessed and used. But this is depending on the therapy and the disease. There is a tool, but then services per se. So we work with the companies to do something that they ask us to do for later use it or for using the results. So this helped us to have different customers. So we have a large contract with a pharmaceutical company, and then more contracts. So we have the other thing that has a strong impact is the customers indeed.
Sorry, and I don't mean to be boring or something like that, but the things that you're mentioning are, if you have a sale, everything will be good. If you have funding, everything will be good. Here. I'm a little bit interested, maybe like about more of the strategy, or maybe the solutions that you propose to your customer. Maybe new product or type of product that you've added
Yes,
to add value.
yes, that's a very interesting point because in the natural thing for us would have been to create a service company, no product, just service. But the investors do not like this. Investors want a product. They prefer something that you can generate plenty of money just by selling. Well, when this is a B2B, it's a bit more complex, but it is something that they like. They like that. So we were kind of in between these two worlds. So our strategy was always trying to move R&D to a product. So not every R&D that you do is going to go to a product, but you try to maximize the R&D to go to the product. So with this in mind, we develop tools that can be flexible enough to include new functionalities and new to transform the potential in something that is real in the product, in the platform itself. And the platform is it's a web app and a cloud deployment. And then within that, there are different tools that are deployed, let's say, and tools that are deployed. So we typically develop the tools that are deployed. So all the rest must be done. So since we started the company, more or less, we started to develop the front end and the back end. And by the back end, I mean the cloud engineering behind it. And so these have a strong impact to transform R&D in a product. And it is something that we have, it is very important for us, and we have it in mind. The other thing that is very impactful is, as I said a few minutes ago, that you have to do, as this is related to health, which is a very highly regulated field, then you need to do something that the customer has trust and is allowed under given circumstances to use it. So everything that is related to the validation of what you're doing, in this particular case, is very important. So if you are doing something that is that becomes more and more validated, the impact is larger and larger.
Mm, mm. Yeah, so so basically having it accessible for everyone, and that's the first one. And the second thing is credibility, which is one of the most important things for any business as well. So
Exactly. If you have one but not the other, it's difficult. It's very difficult to have both, right? But that's why we go kind of in parallel to the two, towards the same directions.
mm. And are there maybe any regrets that you have? Maybe you've done, if you had a chance to, you know, come back in the time and do something differently, would you do it?
Yes, perhaps what I would do is I would have tried to accelerate more these two things.
Mm.
And maybe in particular to accelerate more. The problem that we had is that when we start, well, today these kind of tools are very disruptive. So imagine 5 years ago, they were even more disruptive. So as we advanced, we changed um, the 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 purpose was always the same, and the field in which we applied was always the same. But there are some slight changes that can result in large changes later, that perhaps knowing that what I know now, I would have done this differently. So kind of being more focused, saying, for instance, I don't know, it's we develop a today we have the platform in which you can compute cardiac safety. So maybe what I would have done is to work directly from the very beginning on that in order to speed up. But well, this information I have it now. 5 years ago, no. And also the world is evolving very rapidly on this direction. The AI explosion is something that it is affecting everyone. Even if you don't do AI, you are affected.
Mm. And on your company, does AI is actually a good thing for you as a business?
Hmm. Yes, it is very good. Apart from the obvious thing, that thing in which we use um, LLM models for help you to write projects or things like that. Apart from this obvious thing, or take notes, um, the AI for us is very useful because basically on two things, and one thing or three things. One thing is in analyzing data. data that we either data that we produce or data that is coming from patients. So this analysis can give you insight on what you are doing and can provide more information to the customer. The second use is to create surrogate models, in which by using this you can create you can develop a way based on your own results. You can develop a way of interpolating, but through which you don't need to compute everything. So you don't need to run very complex problems again. And thirdly, something that we're doing now is to complement your web app with LLMs, in the sense that you can interact with your application in a more human-like way, let's say. Today, people like to talk to applications and ask the applications to do things directly. So this is something that we are working in, and we think that it could be a very interesting thing to have in your application.
Yeah, so optimization and accessibility again, right? Okay. Yeah. Let's move to the second, to the next block, which is vision and future. So, what does the next level look like for you and for your company?
Well, we are at some point we are going deeper and wider. So we are going deeper because what we are doing is trying to make what we do better, more efficient on computational terms. And recall that as we are a supercomputer based technology company. So what we do run in HPC, in high performance computing instances. So for us, efficiency is very important because this will help us to increase the margins by making the application more efficient to run in supercomputing instances. So also in doing what we are doing better, in the sense that more validated, in order to give more confidence to the users of what we are doing. So this is like going deeper and then going wider, because what we would like to do is to apply the same methods but now to a different organ. For instance, we are working also on respiratory systems, so to apply all these methods to respiratory. But and I have a dream of using these sort of methods in the brain, to study how people think and react in the behavior of people, really, in the brain. So this is another thing, or a computational liver, something that can be used. So in this way, it will be kind of going wider, because it would be to use the same siloed technology but in a different organ or different diseases.
Mhm. And if we are speaking about like something in particular, like the next milestone that is the closest to you,
The closest to us is,
what's the milestone?
yes, the closest milestone for us is to, um, I'm not saying anything confidential, I can tell, is to improve what we call the precision medicine, in the sense that at this moment we have a very powerful tool for doing in silico clinical trials, and we are improving the tools for make it better in the personalization. So we would like to really go deeper in this direction. So the milestone would be to put now a personalized medicine platform in the hands of those that really need it, and we are struggling to do this as soon as possible.
Mm. Okay. Okay. Lastly, it's really kind of a specialized topic that we're discussing today, and but I still think that a lot of enthusiasts right now at this moment, as you're specialized at this moment, but soon enough you will become B2C also company. So I guess some of the people will be interested to follow you along your journey, maybe learn something about your insights as a company. So where can they do that and how can they do it?
Yes, they can go to our webpage, which is, it is very simple, is Elem.bio. And in our webpage, there are call to actions for asking us for information of the things that we can do. And we will be glad to discuss with them if they are patients, doctors, potential customers, investors, journalists. I am glad to communicate. We are a very communicative company, so we do a lot in communicating what we do. So it will be, I will have no problem at all in answering doubts or questions.
Okay, and also the link to Mariano's LinkedIn profile will be under this video, so you can go to his LinkedIn profile
Absolutely.
and follow him as well. The follow button is available.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you, Mariano. That was really interesting discussion. It's a little bit specialized, but still, it's not a rocket science. If we like, we are still talking about business and the challenges. It's really good that some companies are getting like this kick in the ass, as we've said. You know, the customer just coming and saying like, "Hey, create a company for us. We want to buy." That's kind of a success story, I'd say. So glad that you've came here today, and thank you for
Thank
sharing.
you. Thanks a lot, Arthur. Thanks a lot. Very nice talk. Thank you.